Good morning to all of you. I take up from where Dr. Parmeshwaran said. He used a very strong word which I strongly believe in is passion. Being in the field of education and being in the field of teaching simply mathematics in Mumbai, you know, and that also in maths also, my bifurcation was more towards algebra for the 10 standard students throughout. But what I found is, in a classroom, you have students of wavelength, I think, right from, don't want to call it as rock bottom, but a little above till a very high wavelength. But I'm teaching in general to the entire classroom. In the first few minutes also, sir, I could see certain topics when introduced. Certain students are just taking it up like that. But then with some, it takes such a lot of time. And there is one section of the students whom you break their head, you break the wall, nothing happens. It doesn't get into it. And back then was one simple philosophy in the campus saying that someone, or in the society also, someone not good in maths, Dumbo. The teachers totally sit there and brand, which I used to feel very much hurt about it. I used to not like it because in a classroom, I have, in the language of, let's say, we're all animals. I have a monkey and I have an elephant and I have a tiger and I have a leopard and I have, they are different caliber. Each one has got different specific plus points. They're so good in their own fields. But what are you as a teacher doing? In a monotone way, only giving that concept in a particular way. Teachers are not, they're not able to handle everyone. Why? That was a time I remember around 20 years back also, when I just started of course I started my career around 35 years back. But even at that time, the idea of mentoring came into my mind. The teacher just comes, teaches, go. Come, teach, go is the philosophy. But how many of them are actually able to understand the students? So I made it a point to say that in my campus, I requested the principal, I requested my seniors, and I told them, actually, why can't we do something like that? When you enter, for example, today, after so many years being in the field, I'm able to sit in the classroom and able to pick up this, like that. 5, 6 students I'm able to pick up and I say, I want to meet you later on. Why? Because from their expressions, I can make out that they are just not able to, get into it, get into the system. So that is the time when that mentoring came, and I specifically put it across that let us take it as a challenge. Every teacher, for that matter, you're teaching, let's say, 50 students, but in a year, in this particular batch, I have got these 5 students. They are directly under me. So I know the child so well. Not only his academics, I'm talking about his personally, which family he's coming from, what are the disturbing factors there. And when I'm able to tackle that, believe me, the child is just like a flowing water. And when we had this particular, what is that? At the end of the year, we have this, the students are given papers by the management to give the feedback of the teacher concerned. And I remember n number of students writing to me, sir, I always hated algebra in my life. I started loving the subject only after you started teaching. So it is just not the subject algebra. It is the connect with the students. It could be any subject. So the connect and the mentoring is the basis for every teaching. And now, after having come back to my roots, the last 14 years, stayed back in Mumbai for almost around 35 years. Now, in every faculty development, we make it a point to drill this into the entire faculty that mentoring is a must. Subject, though, everyone knows, social studies and English and Hindi and Marathi, whatever. That is there. But are you mentoring the child? And that is the root cause. And from there on, I think you can pick up and actually drill it. Then, of course, as sir put it, there are students who are very keen listeners. They're auditory learners, as they say. Some are seeing and learning, and some, of course, kinesthetic. They would be fidgeting about every damn thing. Or some students, parents during the counseling, I remember telling me, sir, he has to have the TV on and he studies. But I asked the parent, is he getting the necessary marks? Yes. So what's your problem? The child paces up and down. He can't sit in one place. Fair enough. But then, even I did not know the word kinesthetic learners. Today, I'm able to identify it so clearly. And then that particular child requires a different. You cannot put him into a silent zone to study. He will not excel. So, when you're able to identify the student, I think deliverance is much more easier than simply using the word, oh, you are just a dumbo, you just can't get across, you will not learn maths in your lifetime. Of course, these negative connotations I have stopped in the campus with every lecturer. You are not ever anytime going to use negative connotations at all. We'll talk about that, in the sense, I used to tell the teachers, bring the child outside, have a good talk, and then we'll see what to do about it. But in the classroom, do not go into that aspect. But going through the new education policy, I think it's overall the look that is there. It's more emphasis, unlike what we have studied in our school, when we were little children, the rote method, without even understanding much of it. But more it is on a practical side, hands down, And I think down the years, once this particular is well established, I believe it's going to be a new ball game altogether in the field of education. They say a good teacher is the one who learns every day. Let's not go very much ahead. It is the last 20 years, let's say, whether it is in a primary school or whether it is in a secondary or even, professional courses also. Once a teacher enters with the requirement, basic, about whatever the requirement is, B.Ed, M.Ed, whatever, the teacher is stuck there till the retirement. They are not subjected to any kind of a training year by year. At the same time, the updation of the knowledge. Things are changing so fast, but teachers are still stuck to that one particular method of teaching only. But so for this, when I was in Mumbai and in the institute we started, for example, we are all 4 colleagues, let's say we're all teaching mathematics. And we have worked in that institute for, let's say, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, a different number of years. But I do not know how you present a topic, let's say, of trigonometry. I have not heard you, even though we are colleagues. I have not heard this, sir. I have not heard this, sir. So what we did was, I remember, an experiment where we used to have a workshop just before the school or the college starts, a week prior to that. And the entire school or even the college, the subject teachers were collected in one particular room. And we had a session for, let's say, a week actually. And every lecturer had to go up on stage and present a particular topic, whichever he's teaching. Like, for example, if I am teaching maths, I just go and say a quadratic equation problem I solve. And that particular year, we have a new entrant. Let's say the person is just a fresh MSc, M.Ed person who has joined, and he has been, by the process of selection, he is selected and he will be on board with us for the next year. Now, when he sits there, and I remember solving a particular problem, which takes 6 steps, but immediately this boy puts up his hand and says, "Sir, I think you can solve it in another way. Just 4 steps are required. You don't require those 6 steps." you know. But that particular moment when we started this process, there was a lot of, what I mean to say, disagreement amongst the staff. Nobody wanted to attend that. Nobody actually wanted to, there were some of the lecturers in some subjects, they were so popular among the students, like the student popularity contest, something like that. And what magic they do, we used to always wonder, what does this man do in the class? Why are the children they're so pally with him and they're so happy with him? But subject deliverance, is it there, or is it the fun matter? What is it? What is his style? So that caught us, and we said, okay, let's start this. Now, coming back to this particular point where I just mentioned, this fresh MSc student stood up. I said, hang on, because we've gone many, many years down the lane teaching and understood. Otherwise, ego is a big issue amongst the teaching faculty. There's a big ego. Nobody can question, hey, that's my way of putting it. That's it. No acceptance. But I told him, just hang on a minute. Let me finish this. And the moment I finish, you come up on stage and then solve the problem. So I just put a line there. He came on stage with a marker. He did it and he solved the problem. And then we had a discussion amongst the entire maths faculty there. Was he right? Now, our point of putting it to 6 steps is simplifying it to each and every one. Now, does that touch upon every strata of the student? Let's say a low frequency person who's not able to accept very quickly, or to the very intelligent. Is it done? And everybody agreed that it can be done in that 3 lines. And the decision taken was, this particular problem is on page number 214, and it is the 14th problem. And the DTP man is there. There's a correction done there and told immediately, the next edition that is going to go for print, this is the way the problem has gone to be presented. Now, I did not stand there and say, hey, I have 20 years of experience and what is the young boy going to tell me? No. So that started a very, very big change. And I myself, when we started this process, I remember, that, oh my God, like for example, Dr. Devan, his style is so different, when he presents trigonometry. I never knew that I could present it that way. So I amalgamate my style and his methodology of presenting, I combine that and I present it. The next academic year, I'm a different person. I'm learning. Now, each one, forget teaching. I think we've not even heard, except the formal conversations that we have. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir. Good evening. That's it. And we don't know how they present it, except for the annual functions. A few of the teachers will go up on stage and speak. Otherwise, we've not. But this process has helped in such a big way. And then comes the openness after that, exchange. Even if I am not able to tackle a particular problem in a way, it becomes, it has always been its drawback that particular problem in Trigo, I was not able to handle. But the openness came and I went to a particular colleague, asked him, actually, how do you present it? In normal stance, they would never have told us. This way. But since the start of that particular the workshop, everybody, they started opening up. For that matter, even the language, Hindi or even Marathi or English, how the poem is presented, how is it interpreted, it all went to a different level, And that's how we were able to multiply so fast in Mumbai, because students came to know that this is something different we are offering, and in such a beautiful manner. So that was the mantra, and I thought, why not spread that mantra in my hometown where I was born, because that was my karma bhumi. I thought, this is my janmabhoomi, I must do something out here, and with that intention I came here and wanted to spread in the south. Okay, that particular methodology of putting it across students and having that, as I mentioned earlier, this one about mentoring, that helped in a long way. So even today's students, I'm not labeling them just on the basis of my subject maths. Oh, you're not good in maths, you're not a good person only. And addressing hundreds and thousands of parents actually. The parent mentality also. As sir put it in somewhere, that my child was so good up to 7th standard. I don't know what happened. After he came to 8th standard. It's very true. The child is growing. And of course, parents, one wonderful thing is, that is the only field where I think we don't have a manual. Parenting manual. Okay, you do this, in situations you do this. You just learn by, observing your people around, your own parents, neighbors, the family, society, things like that. Right? So there suddenly the parents are in a vacuum. How is this child was so quiet all these years and suddenly started rebelling and back answering? That is a place I think where there's a huge gap where you have to be, a counseling or no, counseling is a big word for parents, a seminar kind of a thing where a work for the parents has to be there. I remember a parent coming to me for a counseling, and that boy, I had taught the elder child, she was a daughter, she was doing engineering, and this one, quite a gap. The first thing as she sits there, and she introduced, she said, "Sir, you know me?" I said, "Yeah, I know you." She tells her daughter Deepa, she's doing her this one final year, sir. "Oh, that's so lovely. Sir, this boy," this way, the body language, "useless, sir." I just kept quiet. I didn't know what to do. And that boy is so meek and so timid and sitting like that, and the overpowering mother. And then she says, the banging on this one, "Sir, I was working for that." She was working for a huge MNC, drawing at that time around 30,000 salary, and she was on the top level. "I have resigned my job for this fellow." So after I just listened to her, I wanted to give her enough space to vent out whatever she had to say. I said, "Have you done, ma'am? So please sit now." First point is, I think both are your children, so they've inherited your genes. Now, whose genes I do not know. But as you put it, the father was, it seems, the topper in the school days in the Sharda Ashram where Sachin and all played, cricket. And their school rather. So you see, his father's name is there. And this fellow, I said, "First of all, ma'am, when you came to me, what did you do is, and as sir spoke earlier, comparing. Not with outsiders, within the family, sibling. That comparing is absolutely rubbish and wrong on your part to do that. Your daughter, she's a different way. She's a different child. She's doing it, let her do it. He is born with certain qualities. He will do it. Second point, you did this action. Like the Brahmins do it in swaha. What is swaha? What? That gives a very, very wrong negative connotation. You're talking about your own child. Swaha. I said, that's rubbish. Third point, you said you resigned from your job, of a high-paying job, for this fellow. What do you mean for this fellow? He's your child. You have resigned, and you say maybe you wanted, just because he's come to the 10th standard, you've resigned and now you want to be with him and, chart his programs and direct him and all that. Hello? I told that, "Ma'am, he doesn't need you now. He needed you when perhaps he was in the 6th and the 7th, not now. So don't put this high funda thing that you've resigned the job. What have you done? What sacrifice have you done? It's for your child. If you think you have resigned the job and staying at home, that is an investment for your child. But the way you are putting it, you are putting a burden on that child. And I said, now I want you to leave my room because I want to talk to the child. Now, when I talk to the child, I put my arm around him, make him comfortable. I said, "Yes, beta, tell me, what's your problem? What is the issue?" He says, "Sir, I make a timetable, sir. 4 to 5, I'm going to do geography, then I'm going to do physics, and then I'm take a rest for 10 minutes, blah, blah." So second day she comes and changes the timetable. As I'm doing my history, she'll say, no, do one thing, that is enough of that, now do your chemistry. I'm so confused, sir, I don't know what to do. She just sits on my head, sir, and he started crying. So the parents actually think The child requires, by the time they come to the 10th standard, all the blinkers starts, I think, because it's a board exam. I remember one parent telling me don't allow visitors, no relatives, and speaking on the phone, Akash, no, he's in the 10th. Okay, bye, see you, bye. The phone, soft speaking. 10th means what? They stop the games if the child was a good player, if he's a basketball player or any player or a swimmer or a singer or a dancer, whatever, everything stopped. No, boards, no. I said, this is the mistake you are making. Let him continue right up to November till his preparatory start in December. Don't stop it. That is the mistake you're making. So I personally feel more than the child, there has to be an awakening, or there has to be, I do not know, in a larger scale. In a smaller scale, of course, I've been going on doing it, but in a larger scale, addressing parents. And to make them understand the change in the, the hormones, definitely the child's distractions is going to be there. And how do you handle that? And when it comes to one particular, the 3-letter word sex, I think in Indian mentality it becomes a huge taboo today. Whether it is a boy or a girl. I mean, that is the time when you have got to discuss with the child. Yes, these are the things, And otherwise they wouldn't be. I have caught girl students in those days when we had those cassette system, when we put the VCR player, And as I'm teaching, as I know, in a month's time, the change in the entire body language of that girl. So I knew something has gone wrong. And one fine day I found both are exchanging something. And it was it looks, those cassettes were looking like books. And if you wrap it in a newspaper, they were exchanging. But I then went and asked him, oh, you all are into reading? Yeah. What author? And some author they told me, I don't know. I said, oh, that's a very good habit because these days reading is not there. But one fine day I felt something suspicious. I asked my lady teacher to go and check the bag, and it was a blue film CD, which both were exchanging. And immediately that evening, called up the parents, called them, and I said, this is the thing. And both were working parents actually. And that is their age. Now, this is not the time for you to shout and yell and no. There's nothing wrong. It's very, very normal for them. But I think given them a healthy way of putting it, they will also take it very, very positively. But I think that age, they will do it. You don't have to reprimand and give them punishment and things like that. It happens. So parents have to be, given a lot of guidelines. And I think then it percolates down to the student level. So in each one of us have got our own domain. So in my domain, I have been doing it for the last 30, 25 years. Okay. And I have seen the results now today when they are super successful, some of the students, and they give me the email saying that, hey, sir, I'm here. You remember you corrected me this way and you did this and you did. That's a Guru Dakshina I feel, one gets, So, summing it up, very important. With the new education policy, of course, no doubt about it, it's going to be fantastic. But I think every institution must make it a point to have not that first, beginning of the year, one particular orientation program that we have. No. I think we should have a periodic meeting with the parents in a small numbers so that, they are in a right frame of mind. And then, of course, it percolates down to the students. We can tackle it. And teachers, of course, we have to have the different method, which we will discuss. Yeah, thank you.